All right, we need to talk about Boris Johnson, and things are getting very, very dark for Boris Johnson. We've done a lot of videos on this Partygate scandal, and he did buy some time. We said he bought some time with that speech and getting rid of the mandates and the masks and all that stuff, but it hasn't stopped those people that are going after him to continue to go after him. If anything, it's probably emboldened them more because these are the people that wanted the mandates and stuff to go on, and so the walls seem to be closing in on Boris, but he may find a way to get out of this. What's going on?
Yes, I mean he's not out of the picture yet, but it is getting more and more difficult. Now we've got this report from this civil servant Sue Gray about whether rules were broken over Partygate, what exactly happened, what role everybody had, and it seems Sue Gray wants to make this report public. Now that suggests that this is going to be very bad for Johnson. So, the fact that she wants to make it public, I mean, if it was going to be sympathetic to Johnson, presumably it would have been given to Johnson and he would have been given the option of deciding whether or not to make it public. So the fact that she's preparing her report in a way that suggests that that she wants it to be public, suggests that she is intending to criticise Johnson and is going to help in getting him removed. And the police apparently are working up to the point of interviewing Johnson under caution. Now, I should explain that, when you're interviewed by the police, there's all kinds of ways of being interviewed by the police. When you are interviewed under caution, that means you're being investigated. It means that, they tell you in advance those famous words, anything you say may be taken down and, it might inconceivably be used against you. That famous phrase that everybody knows. So it doesn't mean that because you're interviewed under caution, you will be charged with anything. That it doesn't necessarily follow that you will be, but you are under police investigation. So we have a situation where the police are making known that is a possibility, where Sue Gray is that they could interview the Prime Minister under caution, and they're also and for their part the civil service are saying that they want to make their report into the Prime Minister's actions public. Doesn't look good.
Real quick, remind me and remind everybody that's watching, what exactly is is Boris under investigation for? What is his crime in all this? I understand he may have broke rules. Maybe he lied. I don't know, lied to Parliament. I'm a little fuzzy as to what exactly.
I mean, I think
he's being investigated for.
You're absolutely right, because I mean, what basically happened is that there was a succession of events in Downing Street during the really tough lockdown, which violated or allegedly violated the lockdown rules. I mean, I say allegedly. I mean, I think some of them unequivocally did violate the lockdown rules. Now, some people, some of those rules were mandatory by law. I mean, the government passed this act. It was called, it's called well, I'm not going to name it, but it's named after the COOF Act, if you like. And as a result, this law created some offences, and people up and down the country have been prosecuted under this act for committing those offences. So, arguably, Johnson, whose government created this act, and Johnson, who went on television and told everybody what the rules were, broke those rules himself, violated the law, and is therefore under police investigation and under civil service investigation. Now, was these the most extreme violations of any act, any crime? I mean, was it, in the measure of crime, is this a big crime? Well, probably not. In fact, I would say definitely not. but it's the kind of thing that people who lived through the lockdown and abided by the rules understand and get very worked up about. I mean, to give you an example, a lawyer friend of mine who took all of this extremely seriously. He's an ex-soldier. He was an ex-NCO who served in the military, served on the front line in all sorts of places, and became a lawyer. Well, he took it very, very, very seriously during the lockdown. And at the time that the lockdown was announced, he was in London. His wife was away in some other part of England. And the way they interpreted the lockdown rules, they didn't come together. You know, they remained apart because they understood the lockdown rules to mean that the one couldn't go and visit and meet up with the other. You know, they were very law-abiding people. And, you know, people like that took those rules very, very, very seriously. And I should say this person whom I'm talking about is a staunch conservative. I mean, he's the kind of person, you know, who wears a Union Jack on his lapel. He is somebody who is, as I said, ex-army. So you can imagine how he feels. And by the way, a staunch Brexit supporter. So you can imagine how he feels when the Prime Minister who made the rules, the Prime Minister whom he voted for, breaks them and breaks them repeatedly in this flagrant way. So, you know, it is something that has cut through and has affected an awful lot of people.
Yeah, this is the irony of this story is incredible. Boris Johnson, his government makes these rules. They enforce these rules. Their own government then breaks these rules. Well, he breaks these rules.
Yeah.
And then he removes these rules in a speech to the House to the Parliament. And now he's under investigation for breaking these rules.
Well, that's right.
It's an incredible story.
It is an incredible story. I mean, it suggests, by the way, to me that he never believed in these rules in the first place. He regarded the rules as an absurdity and clearly didn't agree with them, even despite the fact that he himself became very seriously ill, and there was a time when his life, if you remember, appeared to be at risk. But anyway, he didn't believe in these rules. He didn't abide by these rules. But nonetheless, he did agree to have these rules made, and they were the law, and he broke them. So it's a difficult position. Now, if Johnson was a universally popular figure in Britain and universally supported within the Conservative Party, it's the sort of thing which a really strong Prime Minister could perhaps ride out. The problem is he's not. He's got the Remainers against him, and bear in mind, we're talking about the London police, headed by Cressida Dick, who is one of these people who's close to Sadiq Khan. She's into identity politics, into all that kind of thing. She's no friend of Johnson's, let me put it like that. She has all this sort of outlook that you might find from, you know, police chiefs in places like Seattle or San Francisco, all those sort of things. So, and I'm sure, you know, I don't know how she voted, but I'm sure she's a Remainer. So she's running this police investigation of Johnson. You have Sue Gray, the civil servant. Well, the civil service, almost to a man and woman, were Remainers. And, you know, fundamentally didn't like Brexit, don't particularly like Johnson by all accounts. So she's preparing this report, and lots of Conservative MPs are Remainers. Trouble is, Johnson over the last few months has upset some of the Brexiters as well. And he's upset them by making decisions on economic policy, taking steps on economic policy, on all kinds of policies that the Brexiteers themselves simply didn't agree with and didn't like. And what is really fatal to him, what is destroying his position, what is undermining his position, is that these Brexiters, who are people of rigid principles, too rigid perhaps for their own good, but these people of rigid principles have turned on him. There's a ferocious article against him by one of their leading luminaries, a man called Alistair Heath, who is the editor of the Sunday Telegraph. He's an absolutely ferocious article against Johnson. And there's talk now that a whole group of ex-ministers, some of whom are staunch Brexiters, are preparing to push for a vote of no confidence against Johnson. So he didn't handle that group well. And unfortunately, he's lost their support. Now, you could argue, many would argue, perhaps I would argue, that these hardline, principled Brexiters are undermining the only Prime Minister who is ultimately committed to their programme. And I would agree. But unfortunately, in politics, emotion can sometimes take over from reason. And I can see why some of these people are acting in the way they have. Remember, the friend of mine that I was talking about, this ex-lawyer, this ex-British Army officer, he is a staunch Brexiter. And he feels furious about this and very, very let down.
All right. Well, what an incredible last couple of weeks in the UK for Boris Johnson. Absolutely incredible. All right. The Duran.locals.com, ODYSEE, BitChute, Rumble, and Super U is where you will find our videos. And Good Day. There is the bug. That is the code that you use, and you get 10% off all merchandise, including our magic mugs, which increase your geopolitical IQ by hundreds, if not thousands of points. Take care, everybody.